Well, guys, this story really pisses me off, and when they find out about it, I'm sure Tory voters are gonna feel the same. In fact, I expect shit fits of rage from most people over this one because it's incredible and being sneaked in while focus sits on the Partygate fiasco. As you all know, the government implemented a no jab no job policy in care homes last year that forced tens of thousands of staff out the door, with the same plan for the NHS in April that could see 100,000 more get the boot, despite there being a health crisis according to the government and the media. Obviously, it makes no sense, but now we are hearing how the government plans to solve the problem it's actually created, and like I said, many Conservative voters ain't gonna like it.
She will appreciate that the provisions before us extend well beyond care home staff. But with respect to those staff, the 1% that she spoke of, in the absence of the impact assessment, if their failure to be vaccinated results in dismissal, who will be responsible for the compensation?
Well, my right honourable friend asks an important question about the process of how this would work in practice, although I think he's presuming that there is a question of compensation here. For instance, a care home can discuss vaccination with their staff member. They can indeed look to whether there might be an alternative role that individual could do if they really don't want to be vaccinated, although I'm realistic that there are not that many roles for staff in care homes that don't involve being within the care home. And after that, they must, if there still is a situation where the staff member does not wish to be vaccinated, then follow a notice period and make sure they follow a fair process.
Now, some of you might know about visa changes made by the government in December last year that's going to allow 250,000 migrants into the country to help out the health service. This is how they hope to replace the staff their mandates will sack. Well, now to top that off and piss everyone off a bit more, Priti Patel has decided to let asylum seekers or illegal immigrants work in care homes.
These pictures from our helicopter, this is not a group of migrants who've been identified by the authorities as so many of the people who are being brought in. And there we are back now with the live pictures of them coming ashore. I don't know whether any authorities will appear, but it has to be said.
Yes, you heard that right. People with no right to be here awaiting decisions on staying will be allowed to look after the most vulnerable people in this country. Here we have a Telegraph article on it, but before we look at some of that, I want to show you the top comment on this article, well before they closed the comment section off. I guess the Telegraph knew early on how this one would go, so had to shut it down before it got started. Tony Platts writes, "The sound you can hear is the sound of nails being hammered into the Conservative Party coffin. This is beyond disgraceful and not what people voted for. Care home staff sacked for not having jabs, people arriving on dinghies being given their jobs. Does this government want civil strife?" Now, this comment here really sums up my thought exactly when it comes to this story, but the Tories are doing this now, hoping their voters are focusing on the Partygate fiasco like I said. When the public actually finds out about this, and hopefully they'll find out soon, there will be outrage across the country, that is for sure. Now, it should also be noted that the last I checked, the government cannot mandate no jab, no job on asylum seekers because of human rights, which once again shits on the people they have sacked, so it's literally taking the piss from all angles, I would say. Here though we have the Telegraph article, which should be sneaked out, even though realistically this should be headline news as you'd likely know. It says asylum seekers can work in care homes after Priti Patel's rule change. Move to ease recruitment crisis is described as temporary measure made in light of unprecedented challenges that obviously the government has caused. It goes on, asylum seekers who have waited more than a year for a decision can now work to help ease the care home recruitment crisis under a rule change sanctioned by Priti Patel. Up to 32,000 asylum seekers who have been waiting more than 12 months are eligible for jobs as care workers after they were added to the government shortage occupation list. This is obviously something they did back on the 24th of December, like I said. Obviously back then they were just talking about legal migrants, but now it seems they've decided to include the illegal ones as well. Like I said, just taking the piss out of all of us. It says industry chiefs and government advisors said the asylum seekers could play a vital role in plugging gaps in the hard-pressed care sector, where there's an estimated 140,000 vacancies accounting for 10% of the workforce, which obviously once again is all the government's fault for causing the shit show that we're in. Here it says asylum seekers do not require visas as they're already in the UK, and unlike other shortage occupations like butchers, welders, laboratory technicians, care workers do not require specialist training. Which obviously makes me wonder what sort of low-life tosspot are you going to have in a care home looking after them? If they don't require specialist training, then why the fuck do they need no jab no job policies that have booted them out? Obviously they don't, it's got fuck all to do with health as you know. Here it says Professor Martin Green, Chief Executive of Care England, said it could have a major impact as social care facilities are under huge pressure with historic shortages of staff, made worse by workers off sick with Omicron or quarantining. No, it's made worse by the government completely fucking up the country and no jab no job bullshit like I've said. And obviously here you can see who are the ones who are actually doing this, and once again it's the Migration Advisory Committee. These cunts need to be binned, I've got to tell ya. Using asylum seekers to tackle labour shortage has been urged by the government's Migration Advisory Committee, which recommended ministers should go further and allow them to enter the job market after 6 months rather than 12. How about go and fuck yourself? This, I have to say, is just fucking unbelievable, but let's be honest, given the Tory government we've been living through, it's not surprising. They're a bunch of scumbags, I've got to say. Here it says, last September, Dominic Raab, the Justice Secretary, said he would be open-minded about allowing asylum seekers to do jobs which help tackle the UK's labour shortages. No, how about you just up people's wages and drop the no jab no job bullshit that's caused a lot of people to leave the care sector? And here we've got Tom Pursglove, an immigration minister, who said the changes announced in regards to the care sector are a temporary measure to help the sector respond to unprecedented challenges brought on by the pandemic. No, brought on by yous lot. Eligible asylum seekers must apply to the Home Office for permission to work in an occupation with shortages, ones that we have created obviously. And here we have the only voice against it, which, as you will not be surprised by, is left to the bottom of the fucking page. Ben Green, Executive Director of Migration Watch, said, instead of surrendering yet again to the immigration lobby, the government should have ensured higher pay and better terms for care workers. It should have made these jobs more attractive, including for UK job seekers. Instead, it has thrown this opportunity away. No, it didn't want that opportunity, and it doesn't give a flying fuck about us. It's only interested in what it can do for its vested interests. You know, the ones who want mass immigration, much like Labour do. This is why I've said the Conservative Party, like Labour, are two cheeks of the same arsehole covered in shit. But essentially this just proves that the government's taking the piss out of every single Tory voter out there, and in fact you should be sending this video to them. Let them listen to the bullshit that this government's pulling.
There is a pattern consistent throughout history of oppressed people turning on the oppressors. Slaves against their owners, the peasantry against the feudal barons, colonies, Mr. Verhofstadt, against their empires. And that is why Britain is leaving. And it doesn't matter which language you use, we are going, and we are glad to be going. We're off.